Hello again, Liam from Unique Cars and Parts. This is our second attempt at an interview on two special vehicles that you've got amongst 45, you were saying, here at the museum.
45 here at the moment.
So 45, the E37 Charger and its predecessor, which was this was a racing car that they built.
It was a road-going race car. The pace of it was more sports sedan, really, anything else for the public, and it developed into the Charger.
And so this, no air conditioning, no real creature comforts when you look inside.
Race car.
Yeah, race car, and powered by a 265 Hemi.
Yeah.
And fed by
triple Weber.
Here, so I'm treating triple Webers.
Yeah, that's it.
And this thing was a stonking car. Winner of Bathurst, I think, or was up amongst it.
Close.
Yeah. And this is when Chrysler sort of went all out to basically make it instead of the big two, the big three on the mount.
They had their acts together with these.
Well, what was the saying? Everyone knows it. Win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
That's it.
Yeah, and this probably acquitted itself well enough that they got sales from their performances there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, because this is a second attempt at this interview, I know that you've had this car for 20 years.
At least 20, probably more than 20, but at least 20.
And it is stock standard, as far as you know, everything, not touched, and it's the original Duco.
Yeah, I got it from a Chrysler dealer. It was in his collection, and it's totally original as I bought it. So.
And now would be very, very valuable.
Yes, it's insured for plenty with Shannon's.
With Shannon, we're giving Shannon's a bit of a plug today, aren't we? Oh, it would be nice if they discounted my insurance and yours.
Absolutely.
We'll look after Michael first, but I'm up for it. So a 265 Hemi, triple Webers, no air conditioning, but it did have a radio. We couldn't quite figure out whether it was a 3-speed or 4-speed.
No.
It must be a 4-speed in there, so I couldn't imagine it being a 3-speed. 3-speed in the Pacer behind us, but an absolutely fantastic car. And then we've got a beautiful Pacer, but this was more a road car. This was something that was on the showroom floor that wasn't specifically designed, even though it did, in privateers' hands, go up to Bathurst.
A road car with a bit of a sports pack on it. So.
And this was a 245?
It's got it on there. What's it, Hemi?
It's got it on the side.
245.
245. Yes, it is. It's a 245. Single carburettor.
Single carburettor, yeah. But they were a great car. I actually had Chrysler build me a 2-door automatic Pacer, and that was a lovely car with air conditioning too. They built it for me with air. I had that back in the 70s, brand new. And
the exhaust almost looks like the exhaust outlet looks like a work of art, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I looked before. You couldn't see it, but the Charger's got the same setup, but it's covered up by the Webers. Yeah. But here you get to see it in all its glory. That is a magnificent bit of engineering, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
One of the best looking 6-cylinder engines around.
Lovely.
Were they originally? I'm guessing yes, of course, Liam. These were originally with the yellow rocker cover and air cleaner.
As it came, I mean, as I say, I used to sell them new. I should know, but it's so long ago that I forget.
You used to sell these? You worked at a Chrysler dealership?
Yeah, with Clem Smith.
With Clem Smith?
Yeah, he was the Chrysler man and raced the Chargers, and we raced Mustangs together in the end. So. And
now we're talking about some of the other cars that you had in this. It's a magnificent collection you've got. And at the back here we've got two old Jaguars, and you were saying that you used to use these on for weddings and so on.
Yeah, we had.
And this one you said was Bob Jane's?
Bob Jane's, yeah. And the other one belonged to a drug dealer, so I had two interesting owners, those cars.
So the drug dealer didn't obviously, whatever you call doing the trade, in from that vehicle, or he would have stood out a bit?
Well, he stood out pretty well, because after I bought the car, his building got burnt down and all his other cars went up in flames. So, and he ended up doing 14 years jail. And strangely, I got a photograph of him in Adelaide's social pages a few years ago. They did make a mention of him doing 14 years in jail.
So he got around Adelaide doing drugs out of the back of this car?
As far as I know.
Okay. And Bob, what did Bob Jane use this for?
Only for a toy. He had a collection of cars, I think. So.
Yeah. And you got a lovely Mark II Jaguar here?
Especially factory built car, special factory order for a doctor in Adelaide.
And then we came up here and we were talking about the Javelin, and this car is quite remarkable because this was built in Melbourne in 1972. I think we worked.
Yeah, 72, 7 litre.
72, and it is a 7 litre V8.
Yep.
Now, I remember the days when, I thought the 253 4-litre was a small V8, but the 5 litres were big, and the 6 litres were stonking. 7 litres.
This is the same car that Jim Richards raced in the Touring Car Masters.
And what was the name of the colour?
Bad Boy Orange.
Bad Boy Orange. And this bad boy is absolutely original, still sporting its original Juco.
One owner car and beautiful condition, yeah.
It would be a real head turner if you took it to a show.
Yep, if I didn't have the little 300 ZX on, this would be home.
Is this road ready?
Oh yeah, it's still.
It looks to me like all these cars, if you...
They all go and start and they could be driven on the road, yeah.
Except the ones on the mezzanine. Have you take a bit of effort to get them on the road?
They've got a life sentence up there.
you got to manhandle them down here somehow. Well, it's been fantastic. It's been a great pleasure. Oh, before we go, I did ask you in a previous interview that we messed up, which was the favourite car of people that come to have a look at your extensive collection, 45, and you were saying it was the XK1, was it the 120?
XK120, yeah. It's my favourite car. So.
We had the 120, the 140, the 160, the 150. Yeah. So this was the first of that series before the E-Type came out.
Yeah, that's it.
And that one, you were telling me, and I didn't know this, they made 2 different sorts of bodies, aluminium or steel.
First ones were aluminium, and they did a short run of them, and they were so popular, they had to then go and build them. They built them half steel and half aluminium. So, and the alloy body ones are worth $500,000, and these are worth 100 to 150.
And why would the aluminium ones be worth more? They'd be lighter.
They're rare.
They're just based on rarity.
Yeah, rare.
Well, there's not many 120s sporting around either.
Not a lot, no.
Well, and we've got an Austin. Is it an Austin A40
convertible? Yeah.
And you were saying before that people from England are coming out to buy these and ship back to England because they're becoming very rare over there.
A factory car in Australia, but they didn't make them in England as a factory car. Next model of Somerset, they built a factory convertible, but this was a factory car. They came out here cab chassis to build panel vans and utes, and the Australian factory made a convertible. So,
do you know how many they made of them?
I think it's less than 1,000. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so incredibly rare. So if one of our English brothers was getting around the English countryside in one of those, he's driving an Aussie car.
Yeah, absolutely. A convertible.
If it's convertible, yes. And what have we got next up in the line?
That's probably the most valuable car in the place. It's a Allard K1 convertible. Yeah.
An Allard K1 convertible. And how did you get that into your collection?
Oh, a guy that used to race Allards in England was thinning down his collection in Australia, and I ended up buying it. I always liked Allards, and I bought it for myself.
And 2 beautiful cars after that look they were built in the 30s, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the 35 DeSoto built in Adelaide, and the other one was the Singer Sports. And when I was a lad, I had a couple of Singer SM Sports, and they were beautiful cars, and that came to me on my last day of trading, and I had to buy it, so fully restored. So
DeSotos were made in Australia too?
Yeah, they're assembled in the Chrysler factory on Anzac Highway at Ashford.
Okay. Oh, it's what a shame that we can't we can't make a box of matches these days. But
thank the politicians for something.
Well, look, Michael, it has been absolutely fantastic having a look around your museum, and for you taking your morning out to do an interview with me. It's been fantastic, and I would highly recommend it. Anyone's travelling down now, we're in how do you pronounce the peninsula here?
Fleurieu Peninsula.
The Fleurieu Peninsula. I'm bad with words,
and
Michael.
I offer anybody, if they don't like the place, they can have their money back. And in 20 years, nobody's ever asked for their money back. So.
Well, why would you? It's so damn cheap. I'm not going to say the price in case you put your prices up, but you wouldn't get a sandwich. Well, you'd be lucky to get a coffee for what it costs to come into this museum, and it is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I haven't finished, and I do want to take some photos of the engine if I could, Michael, before we go. But thanks again, and if you're down on the Fleurieu Peninsula, pop in to the Goolwa Motor Museum. Michael Finnis will be your host, and what a fantastic collection of cars. Thanks again. Bye bye.